Elijah wants to know, hey, Ben, how do you justify religiously based political views to adamantly non-religious people?
So I don't justify religiously based political views. I justify reasonably based political views. I believe that every public policy has to have a secular rationale. Otherwise, we can't have a common conversation. Now, with that said, religious values can back that rationale. So what I mean by that is, to take an example, this entire book is about how secular values that we all hold dear, things like freedom of speech and free markets, are actually rooted in Judeo-Christian values about the fact that we are all made in God's image, that we are individuals with creative capacity, that the universe is an understandable place where we ought to be able to use reason. These are religious assumptions. Okay? These are not assumptions you can make if you are a scientific materialist. Those are religiously based. But making those assumptions, now you have to make a secular argument for why public policy ought to prevail along some lines or other lines. But the assumptions that you make from the outset are very rarely based in simple evidence. Assumptions that you make politically or values-wise are generally based in a religious underpinning, which is why when I debated Sam Harrison, I asked him, why do you think our values are so similar, even though you're a militant atheist and I'm an Orthodox Jew? The answer is because we grew up in a Judeo-Christian society with 3,000 years of common history 10 miles from each other.
Do you think that he's read this book?
Not yet. I hope he does. I do mention him in it.
Really?
And I would love to, I talk about him. Michael Shermer has interviewed me about the book. I mentioned Michael in here. These are all people I think who are trying to do something good, which is restore Enlightenment values, but they're doing so on the basis of a secular materialism that I think is insufficient to support the superstructure of Enlightenment values. Enlightenment was not purely secular. It was based on a long history of religious values.
There was an interesting conversation I saw on a Twitter thread earlier. Yes, interesting things do still happen on Twitter, guys, but stay away. And someone said he wondered how many people would convert to Judaism after reading this. And then somebody else was like, I actually wrote a thought piece about how I actually think people would convert to Christianity after reading this.
Yeah, somebody did a review of the book. It's actually a really good review of the book by a Catholic person who was reading it and saying, what you really need is more Jesus in the book. And okay, if you're Catholic, fine, sure.